Welcome to Grace or Grit. Tonight's topic is the Grasshopper Complex. We know forgiveness and justification are all Jesus and all by faith and grace alone. But what about sanctification? Getting victory over sin? All Jesus? Or is that a partnership, collaboration, cooperation? Join Pastor Dan Smith and Gannon Hanna and let's explore these questions now.
Hello again, and welcome to our third episode of a four-part series called Grace or Grit with pastor and speaker, retired pastor, Dan Smith,
You got to put that word in now, huh?
Yeah, we got to give you that honor.
The first time I heard that in the Philippines, retired pastors. Oh my, yeah, but it is.
Is it really retirement?
Pretty busy, and I've been at Redwood Camp meeting. I did 3 weeks and meetings over in the Philippines. I've been to Chicago, did a weekend, and now every night with you. But it's different. The pressure's off. I don't have to drive down to Orange County every day and deal with whatever might come up. Yeah. We miss people, I miss all that.
And they miss you.
We're pretty happy with this new deal. So we'll see.
So it's really work in a different hat.
Yeah, eventually, we hope to get a small camper and at least some of the time slip away. But we got to get the money for that, put all that away. Right. We want to be productive half, 2/3 of the time, and not so productive some. So we'll see.
Wonderful.
But we're doing yard work. We're cleaning stuff up. Yeah.
About time, right? Well, wonderful, and congratulations. Today's topic is?
The Grasshopper Complex.
Okay.
If you're just dropping in on us out of the sky here, we haven't been around the last couple of nights. I'm a Vendan. My mother's a Vendan. If you've been around Adventism, especially here in Loma Linda, Vendan's a long-term name. My uncle Lou was a pastor here at Loma Linda for a long time. Right. And my uncle Maury Vendan pastored many of our large churches, spoke for camp meetings all over the world, 50, 60 books or so. Passed away now. His son and my cousins are going around speaking about it. I've got 4 nights here. Let me bring back some of Maury's big ideas. So a lot of the sermon are my own way of putting it together, but there's some parables and some stories that are Maury, and I thought, why should those ideas die? They should have some life. So we're trying to do that.
I think that was a wise decision, and your message for the last 2 days was a great blessing, and I trust today's and the next episode will be just as blessing as the other. For those of you who maybe just joined us and missed part 1 or 2 and wish to see it, if you just go to our website at www.llbn.tv, all the series, the first 2 series are uploaded and available for your viewing at your convenience.
Wow.
All right, we're going to start the program with some uplifting music. You probably haven't heard this group before. It's called MAP. It's by Maya and Joshua. Wait till you hear what they could do with their instruments and voices.
All right.
As I sit here alone, thinking how I will go on, my mind pulls me to your precious name. The sweet name of Jesus brings comfort to my soul. It drives me from danger and gives me hope. It's the name of Jesus, the precious Lamb of God. He's the one that gave and sacrificed his life. It's the name of Jesus. precious Lamb of God. He's the one that gave and sacrificed his life. It's the name of Jesus. Lord, you're beautiful to me. You're everything I want and everything I need. Lord, your love sets me free. 'Cause Lord, you're beautiful, beautiful to me. It's the name of Jesus, the precious Lamb of God. He's the one that gave and sacrificed his life. It's the name of Jesus. It's the name of Jesus.
Amen. How beautiful it is to have young people like them
Well done, guys.
to polish our program. Maya, stand at that microphone and tell us what your group stands for.
MAP Ministries is a ministry where we reach out to the young people through sacred music because we see a big need for it today. And we also, what's our other goal, Mia?
To bring sacred music to youth.
To bring sacred music to youth, as well as to be able to provide those people or those children who don't have necessarily the opportunity, or the less fortunate ones, to be able to bring the music lessons and scholarships.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for blessing us with your music. And if you folks ever want to come to our church, contact LLBN and talk to Jay Hughes at the number you see on the screen, and he will make the arrangements to help him get lined up for your church visit. Well, Pastor, are we ready for your message today?
My time now?
Is it?
All right.
Are you ready? Let me get you the stand. They put it behind me. And go ahead and...
Can we bring it up some?
Sure can.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Well, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you. It's 6 o'clock here in the West Coast in California. And we've been doing kind of a theme about the question, is the normal Christian life supposed to be a battle and a struggle, fighting with willpower, where Paul says in Romans 7, I want to do this, but I don't do it. And I don't want to do that, but I keep doing it, and it's just battle. Is that the normal Christian life or not? Anyway, I was thinking about years ago when I was a young pastor in Southern Oregon. We would do whitewater rafting. And I did a lot of it. We, what they call the wild and scenic part of the Rogue River. My house was 20 minutes from where it started. We all bought little torpedo boats, blow-up inflatable kayaks. And we went down the wild and scenic many times. Like I remember the first time you go through, you would come up getting ready to go through a rapid. And we'd get off to the side and we would go up and do what they call scouting. And you would get on a high rock and when you get there, you got to go right. And when you get that wave, you got to turn left and you got to plan this out. And they have terrible names for all these. It's all like a Devil's Punch Bowl and Widowmaker. So you just get psyched out about what is coming. And then you get back on your boat and you go in the calm water, and then the water begins to go faster and it begins to get louder and the canyon walls begin to get narrow and you get all your boats lined up and then you head down to that first wave. And if we're not careful, it could be kind of keep you up at night. They would tell you, tomorrow we're going to do Rays Creek, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and talk about how they had dumped out last time, and you're scared. in anticipatory fear of what is coming. You read the book of Revelation. A lot of people don't even want to read it. Why is this book in the Bible all about beasts and wars and battles and final terrible things that are going to scare you half to death? Why does God put all of that in the Bible? Last day events. We're going to have a day when we're going to have to go through a time without a mediator and investigative judgment and close of probation. And my Uncle Maury Venden had one sermon, one chapter in a book dealing with what he called the Grasshopper complex. As we look at this theme of war, the Bible is filled with war, and Christianity has got a lot to talk about war. And there's a lot of movies out there. I'm not a movie person, but there's enough on television, and I've seen some of it and read the books. You know, they got Matrix, and you got Avatar, and you got Lord of the Rings, even C.S. Lewis and The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. And there's almost always a war and a battle and good against evil. And here we have this battle as the Israelites are facing going into the promised land. And after Moses had died, and Joshua is going to be the one to lead them across. Moses, my servant, is dead, it says in Joshua 1. Now then, you and all these people, get ready to cross over the Jordan River into the land I am about to give you. Remember that. I am about to give you. I will give you every place where you set your feet, as I promised Moses. No one will be able to stand up against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. What more did you want to have God say? I'm going to give you this land. I will fight. I will give you every place you put your foot. You don't have to worry about it. I will do it all. And now they come to the Jordan River. The old generation are gone. And here they are at the same place where they were 40 years before with the 12 spies. You remember the story of the 12 spies. You're standing on the banks of the river. Promised land is over there. Slavery is back where you were before. And Moses sends the spies into the land. Check it out. See if the cities are open or are they walled. What are the defenses? Give us some of the, what is there? Bring back something, some grapes. Tell us a little bit about this land. And when they came back, you know the story. The 10 spies said in Numbers chapter 13, but the people there are powerful, their towns are large and fortified. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. We can't attack these people. They are stronger than us. We all seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes. Giants in the land, and we look like grasshoppers. They decided not to go across. Ended up wandering around in the desert for 40 years. Are you part of the 10 or are you part of the 2? Part of the 10 spies that said, there's giants in the land. We cannot do this. This is bigger than we are. God is giving them this land. He says, I'm going to give you the best land. I'll give it to you as far as you can see, as far as the sun will set. That I will give to you. Your land is who you are. In that day, in that age, your land defines who you are. You were what your land was. And he said, that's you. That's the land I am giving to you. I didn't make you to be slaves. You don't want to go back to Egypt. I'm giving you this land. And the 10 spies says, no, there's giants in the land. God says, I will give you the land. No. Let's go back. The giants can be anything that's too big for you. Giants can be some sin that you're having a hard time getting rid of. Giant can be language that you wish you wouldn't use those words anymore, yelling at the kids. Giants can be a bookstore in an airport somewhere a long ways away, and you see a magazine or a book. There's no one that's going to ever know that you do that, and it's a giant. Some people, it might be a beer. Some people, it might be pornography. Some people, it might be food or sugar. Might be politics in the church. Down the street, I was over here this morning. Someone told me a story. I can't give you a single detail of it. And it wasn't a very nice story. High leaders in the church many years ago still has never been able to live it down. Politics. Giant in the land. Maybe you have a story. Someone in the church has hurt you. Someone asked me a story the other day. I was a young pastor and I was single. I moved from Oregon down to Southern California. And they give you what you call a curtain allowance. So much money that you can cover all the curtains in your house. So they gave you a few $100s. I had someone come and help me. And the union president of our church was in my house helping me hang those curtains. I got them all hung. I got a little note in my next paycheck. We're sorry to inform you, because you were single and not married, you only get half the curtain allowance. You will need to send half the money back. Already spent it. I had to go into a payment plan to send back the money. What are you supposed to do when you're single? The windows are the same size, whether you're married or single. You only put up half the curtain. And everyone could tell stories like this. People in the church that hurt you and become the giant on the land, and you can't get over it. You remember what this person said to you or did. Politics. It might be finances. You don't know how to solve this financial battle. What's going to do? Where are you going to find the money for it? Giant in the land. Could be a test at school. When I was on a college campus, I said it might be sitting with some guys in the dorm and you hear what they're doing on Saturday night. And you wish you could do some of what they're doing on Saturday night. And it's pretty big, and it's a giant in the land. It's too big for you. You can't handle it. Hard to resist the temptation. Might be a test to get into medical school. Could be a habit you can't get over. Whatever it is that's too big for you. Giants in the land, and they came back and they said, they're too big for us. We can't attack them and we'll lose. We feel like grasshoppers in our own eyes. And a lot of us are trying to make it into the promised land. You can take the whole story of going from Egypt to the promised land as a story of going from sin to the Canaan. We're all going from Egypt to the promised land, our own Canaan. And God says, I'm going to give you a promised land. But in between, there are some giants. Someone told us we're going to have to be perfect. There's going to be a judgment day, and your name is going to be called, and you'll be called in front of God, and the angels are going to open up the books, and they're going to begin to read everything you've ever done. And if there's one unconfessed, unforgiven, undealt with sin that you don't have victory over, then you will be lost, and your name will be taken out of the Lamb's book of life. That's what I grew up with. It was a giant I didn't know how to face, hopeless. Some people call it last generation theology, righteousness. Maybe other people, like the thief on the cross, could die and you would be forgiven whatever, as far as you got, that would be okay. But if you live here at the end, you're going to have to finish the race. You can't drop out 3/4 of the way and have God make up the difference. You have to finish it. God is waiting for a group of people who will finish the race and be the last generation. It's a giant in the land. Who's going to be good enough for that? My grandfather, 95 years old, was still a girl watcher. We'd be sitting in a restaurant somewhere, and a pretty girl would go by, and here's my grandfather looking. I said, if he can't get over that at 95, what's the hope for the rest of us? My grandfather on the other side was a wonderful pastor, Dan Venden, I'm named for him. Preached all over the world, conference president of 2 different conferences. I'm at college, And he got mad at somebody who was doing a program up at the college, and he made a little fun of him and said a few things he shouldn't have said. Didn't matter to me. A few days later, I got a note. I want to apologize for the attitude I showed the other day. I shouldn't talk about another pastor that way. Spent 8 cents to send a note up to his young grandson. And I said to myself, good for him. But if my grandfather, who was a saint of God, who sits there in the couch with a stack of Bibles and Ellen White books, and he's preached all over the world, if he hasn't gotten it together, how am I going to be the one? Giants. And then someone said, there's a quotation that says, there's going to be a time when you have to go without a mediator. Christ is going to leave the heavenly sanctuary, and you're on your own. You sin, and you want to ask God for forgiveness. There won't be anyone there to forgive you. Giants in the land. And Caleb and Joshua, they come back after the 10 and they said, no. No, that is not what we're supposed to say to you. Numbers 13, verse 30, we should go up, for we can certainly do it. Numbers 14, verse 8, if the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us. Only do not rebel against the Lord. Do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will swallow them up. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them. You're part of the 10, part of the 2. Part of the grasshopper complex. You always see the giants that are facing you. Or you're part of the 2. And you see God. And our God will swallow those giants up. Which one is you? The 10 were in the majority, the 2 were in the minority. Many times we think the majority is right, but in here it's not right. The minority is one that's right. They tried to stone the minority. Seems like there's always a group of 10 spies around. There's always a group around that says, don't think we ought to do that. That's going to cost too much money. We've never done that before. Don't think God wants us to do that. Let's stick to the music we've always done. Let's not do anything new. Let's not go across the river. Let's stay where it's safe. There's always a Roman guard that says, let's keep Jesus in that tomb. We like things the way they are. Let's not rock the boat. Keep Jesus locked up with that stone. There's always an older brother to the prodigal son. Prodigal son comes home. He's blowing all their money. He's been sinning everywhere. There's always an older brother that says, I've been here all along. I've been following the rules. Where's my party? How come you're always forgiving him? He's blown all your money. What about me? There's always an older brother that thinks we're giving too much grace. We shouldn't give people another chance. It's always one. It's always some people who want to keep things the way they are. We like the life that we have now. We're comfortable. This is our food. This is my house. I have a routine, everything I know. I don't want to go over that river. Who knows what's over there? There's giants in the land. We better just stay right here. Safe, comfortable. There's always some food police, clothes police, music police, other police around. They say, we'd rather stay right here. No, there's milk and honey over there. No, let's just stay here. We like it here. Let's go back to Egypt. Slavery back there is better than that. Grasshopper complex. It's too bad. But now the 40 years are gone. Everybody who were the 10 spies who said, let's not go across, have all died. Buried them all in the desert. And now they're standing on the banks of the Jordan River again. And now Joshua is here. Moses is gone. And Joshua comes to these people and he said, let's not do this again. Let's not just stop here on the banks. You do not want to go back to that. That was slavery. That was terrible. We do not want to go there again. working 7 days a week and being slaves and making bricks. That's over. God did not make you and me to be slaves for the rest of our life. He promised He would give us the land. He'll give us a promised land. He will drive out the giant. Don't worry about the giants. He said, I'll give it to you. The battle is the Lord's. But don't just stand here on the bank. Some people think, if I could just stay, I don't want to go back to slavery, but neither do I want to go over. Let me just stay here. Safe here. God says, no. I have a promised land for you. I did not make you for that. I have something better in mind for you than that. Go on across. Put your foot in the water. I'll open up the water and claim your promised land. God has a promised land for you. I don't know what it is, but there's a promised land here and a promised land in heaven. And if you're standing on the banks, if you're still in the valley of decision, you don't want to go back to slavery, you know that's no good, but you're just kind of marking in time. Message of this message is don't get the grasshopper complex. Let's go across. Let's go on across. It says here, when they heard Joshua, that they said, okay, we'll go. We will go. There's two different ways to do this. One way is to say, no, we're not going. Another way is to say, we'll go, but go on your own. We'll fight the battle by ourselves. It's too bad. Which way, either way, you don't cross over. Either way, you don't go to the promised land. One way is to go no and wander in the desert. The other is to go fight the battle, but in your own power, without a relationship with God. Either way is disaster. They had a terrible disaster. Well, finally, we come down to what you have to learn from this passage. And isn't it clear? Don't look at the giants. We all know that there are giants in the land. We know they're there. We know there's a Satan. We know there are demons. We know there is evil in the world. Yes, we do. But there's something bigger. And we reframe. And we bring God into the picture. And rather than us looking like grasshoppers to them, now they look like grasshoppers to God. Bring God into the picture. And now everything changes. You think of the stories in the Bible, they're in a storm. Jesus is sleeping. They're terrified. What's going to happen? And Jesus is sleeping. How can you sleep? And Jesus said, why do you have so little faith? You really think this boat is going to go down with God inside the boat with you? Daniel chapter 1. They don't want to eat the king's food. They said, let us eat our food. You can eat your food, and then we'll see who's the best. And the servant says, but maybe you'll be worse. There's giants. Don't think about God. Maybe you'll be worse. You remember the story of Gehazi? Surrounded by enemies and horses and chariots, he said to Elisha, what are we going to do? Elisha says, God, show him. And God peels back reality, and Gehazi is able to look, and the horizon is filled with angels and horses and chariots from God's side. We just forget. I forget too. I've done mission projects all over the world. But somehow when the next project comes along, I will forget. And all I can see is the giant. And it's too big. And I don't want to do it. Then I have to remember, yeah, God helped me do that one. And God helped me do that one. I was in the Philippines one of the first times years ago. Working on my sermon in the hotel room. And they came, mission president, union president. Pastor Dan, we want to show you something. Took me down the street. Here is the little beginnings of a school. A few little blocks, some gravel, weeds everywhere. We have no school, Pastor Dan. We need a school. Our kids have to go to the Catholic school or the public school. We need a school. Can you help us? All my first thought was giants in the land. This is too big for me. I'm just a pastor in a church. I don't raise money. I don't know anybody that has that kind of money. But they pressed me, Pastor Dan. I finally said, how much? $20,000 for 2 stories. I said, how much for 1 story? See, I'm whittling the giants down to my size. $12,000. I said, I'll try to do that. You have to do the 1,000 from the union, 1,000 from the mission. I'll raise 10. But I raised the 10 pretty quickly, so I had, okay, God help me do the 20,000. I raised the 20,000, sent it over there. It's finished. No more. Pastor of my church. Got an email a few months later. They said, Pastor Dan, we're sorry. Run out of money. It's not enough. And I got the Grasshopper complex. All I could think about were the giants. And I said to God, I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. I'll be the pastor, but I don't want to be your evangelist or your fundraiser or your missionary. Let someone else who's bigger than me do that. But this is too big for me. I did my little part of it, but I don't want to do any more. Find somebody else. Came over here to Loma Linda, walked in Mimi's restaurant over here. My small group was there, some people from the hospital. Young man, he's a mature man now, has a big bank downtown. He's on the La Sierra University board, but we were just young back then. As I went past them, bumping in their knees into my place, he said, I've got a check for $1,000 for you. Can you use it? Wow. I said to God, does that mean you don't let me quit? By that night, I had the 6,000, sent that money over. They flew me down a few months later. We dedicated the school. 10 years later, I'm doing a week of prayer in the Philippines. A bunch of kids gathered around me, and they said, we were the first graduates from the school that you built. When you just look at it the way we look at it in humans, we see the giants, we see the walled cities, we see the sin, we see the temptation. We look at the future and we see close of probation and last days and time of trouble and investigative judgment, and we say, these are giants, too big for me. Until you bring God back into the picture. And more went all over the world trying to say, God is big enough to handle all the giants. Big enough to handle Satan. Big enough to handle all of it. I was on a plane watching the movie Argo one time. Don't get to have time to watch movies much, but on the plane, not much else to do. Here is this movie. This is really my generation, a group of people. When they had the hostages in Iran in 1980, 6 of them got away and went down the street out the back door, and they went into the house of the Canadian ambassador. He kept them there for 1.5 years, and no one really knew that they were there. Somehow they got a hold of the CIA, and Ben Affleck was the one, and he came up with a plan that they would pretend to make a movie, and that these would be part of the team making the movie. So they created different identities for all of them, and he flew into Iran, went to that house, and he told them his plan. We'll have you all be part of the movie producing team, and then we'll take you to the airport and we'll fly you out. Most of them said okay, except one. And one said, I don't trust you. I don't know you. How can I trust my life with you? And he said, I have done this all my life. This is what I do. I get people out. And I have never left anyone behind. I hope you can see the gospel here. They decided to take a chance. They did some trial. They did some work on it. They finally got ready to go. They have a different identity. I hope you'll hear this. They got their identity from someone else, as we will all get our identity from someone else when we go to heaven. We won't go on our identity. We will go on someone else's identity, someone else's name, someone else's record. They get into the airport, and if you're watching the movie, you begin to watch this race. They're trying to get through the checkpoints, and there's another man who was going through the shredder and putting pieces and pictures of this picture together. And just when they're about ready to go, he puts it together, and here he now knows one of the guys, these hostages, are going through the airport. They mobilize, and they get all their guards, and here are the hostages going out, and here are the guards, and they're racing. And they get on the plane, and then the Iranian jeeps are racing, and they're racing down the runway. It is a picture of the end of the world as Jesus Christ is coming in to rescue us and take us away with his identity. The other side is racing to hold on to everybody. And finally, just at the last second, the plane lifts up, and it goes over international territory, and they announce, we have now gone into safe airspace. You're all free. And that man in the glasses who had said, I don't trust you, went to the back, and he said to him, you did it. You did it. Someday it's going to be like that at the end of the world. We're in this battle. We're on the way to the promised land. And there is this Jordan River between us and the promised land. And there are giants in the land, and there are walled cities. But God says, I will give you the land. I will fight the battle. I will give it to you. And someday we will all come to him and said, you did it. You pulled it off. You got us there. It's going to be the final moment of the battle. The last point of this passage, I'm sure, is this. You don't have to fight for something that is promised. Moses said to them, and Joshua said to them, you're not going to have to fight for this. These giants, yes, there are giants there, and there's walled cities, yes, but you don't have to fight for them. God is going to fight for them. God is going to be the one. They tried to fight anyway, and there was a disaster. We went over that last night. You fight on your own, you'll lose. If you try to fight and ask God's blessing, you may still win, but there will be casualties. But if you will let God do the fighting, he will do this miracle. And he will give you the promised land. And Maury preached Grasshopper Complex all over the world. If you will let God fight for you, he will give you the promised land. You don't have to fight. Give you a quick parable. I was down in Venice Beach with a group of my kids from La Sierra. A bunch of guys were playing basketball and said, you guys want to play against us? All right. We thought we were pretty good. We put our stuff off to the side. We go into the court and looked up. Every single one of them was taller than us. They said, we're going to play to 10, 1 point a basket. We began to play, but they're killing us. In about 2 minutes, they're ahead 9-1. 9-0. We call a little huddle off to the side, and we have a little prayer. We said, God, we need help. We're getting killed here. We got up from our prayer, and here was someone very tall standing next to us, 6'6", shaved head. It's Michael Jordan. He says, you want me to play with you? Yes. We need help. And I have asked college kids all over the world, what do you do when you have Michael Jordan on your team? You do not shoot the ball. You give your ball to Michael Jordan, and you get out of the way. And that's what we did every single time. We gave the ball to Michael Jordan. He made every shot, and he blocked every one of their shots. I hope you understand. This is my parable now, not Maury's. When you let God fight the battle for you, he said, I will fight for you. He is taller than their players, and he can fly, and he can do everything. And he can block all of Satan's shots, and he can make them all on his side. We won that game 10-9 in my parable. And at the end of the game, they all bowed, and they said, he's the best. You and I try to fight the battle by ourselves. We get Grasshopper Complex. And we see giants in the land, and it's hopeless. But if you bring God into the picture, he says, I'll give it to you. You don't have to fight. I will fight. The battle is the Lord. You and I are not supposed to fight the giants. Our fight is the fight of faith, to hold on to Jesus and to give him the ball. Let him drive, and he'll win the game. Amen? God bless you all.
That was just wonderful, Pastor. You reminded me of many, many giants that I had faced in my life, but then God overcome them. Yeah. I remember these. I remember one of the very first miracles God performed for LLBN. We needed a satellite transmitter, And we looked at the prices, $1 million+. So I was looking for something used, throw away, take it, fix it. We were all engineers, by studies and trade, and looked everywhere. Went from CNN to Fox News to CBS, NBC, you name it. And they all pointed me to one company. So I go to that company, and I'm thinking, all I need is used equipment. So I called them late at night. I was having cold feet even to ask for used equipment because even the used equipment wouldn't be that cheap. And my whole budget was $25,000 with installments. So making a story short, talk about how God has the answers to everything, and he had already pre-planned everything for us. But I didn't know that. I was weak in faith. I was junior in my faith. And I called to leave a message because I had such cold feet to have that conversation. I would call after 7 p.m., hoping to leave a message on the answering service machine, and that someone will hear it in the morning and think about it and give me a call. Well, phone gets answered, and guess who answers the phone? The president and CEO of the company, as he was going out on his way to pick up his wife for dinner. So, I said, well, I'm sorry. I thought I was going to get a voicemail. And he said, speak up fast. I'm on my way out. What do you need? So I was very hesitant in explaining what I need. He said, what's your budget? I said, about $25,000 and maybe in payments. Making a story short, that man turns back weeks later after many other phone conversations, and he gives us a gift, about $1 million in equipment for $80,000 that he would finance with zero interest and pay it whenever you can. Why he charged us for the 80, I have no idea. But we paid the 80 in full. And then we were getting cold feet again. Hey, we need to upgrade to higher grade antennas. 2 years later, technology changed. Same thing, I leave a message for him. He calls me back, we talk for a little bit, and I'm just hoping he can do a little upgrade of the equipment that we bought. And then he calls me back weeks later, and he says, we've decided what we're gonna do. We're gonna give you a whole new transmitter system, no cost to you. And we'll come and install it for you. There's God, he outdoes all the giants, but sometimes our faith is just too weak, too small.
And we forget,
And we forget those miracles.
Last week, last year,
That's
last
right.
time, and they say, what? Come on, Dan, I have found that the next challenge is always a little bigger,
Yep.
And so, okay, we did this church, but now we have to do an ad building or whatever it is. I preached in this particular site. Okay, that worked okay, but now I'm in a stadium.
Yep.
Or whatever it is. And the dollar, there's just more zeros at the end of the number. Mm-hmm. More people involved, more people that have to go, more headaches along the way. And so then your faith wimps out again, and you begin to do the 10 spies thing, Yeah. There's a good promised land over there, but there's giants between here and there, and we don't have enough to handle it. We were going to remodel the kitchen before I left my church. And we'd done every other project in the church. Every other project was basically completely done. One left. And there were people, important people, who said, don't worry about that. Just enjoy the church your last few months. Just enjoy them. And another group of people came to me and said, Pastor Dan, if we don't do it, the next pastor will be a couple of years before they can do it. We'll be 3 years in before we can do this.
Right.
You need to do it, Pastor Dan. You have the history. You've got the context. Try. So some people say, well, you could try, Pastor Dan. Maybe we could get half of it before you go. That'd be great. But it's done. 119,000. It just blew my mind day after day. People had no idea had any money, gave money.
Yeah.
And I hear a rumor that they're working on it right now.
Yeah.
And here's my last thing I do. And I still have to fight the battle to not let the giants get you down. God is bigger than the giants. He who is in you is bigger, greater than he who is in the world.
Amen. Yeah. But I think these battles keeps coming along because maybe God knows our human weakness. And he brings these as a reminders. Once again, don't drift away too far in the sea. I'm here with you. Otherwise sometimes we can become too arrogant, too self-independent, and then we're back to square one. We're depending ourselves not on God.
Always.
So I find myself always humbled and retrained again and again.
Well, it's like Maury's story in driving the car. You know, we keep thinking, okay, I can see how you do it now. Take the wheel again.
Right.
Another disaster. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You go ahead, Jesus. And eventually maybe we'll learn. Let him drive all the time.
We would eventually learn or not learn, because I suspect till the time we draw the last breath, we'll still be full of flaws. But through his glory, all that will be wiped away and erased from our records. Yeah. What a merciful God, what a graceful God. And when you speak of his grace, I can't help stop and thinking as I was sitting there listening to you, that God is full of grace toward us, but we're not as full of grace toward others. We do as much of it as we can, but there's always those speed bumps comes along in between. I know some people who knew and loved the Lord for their whole life, but they still can't understand that he can forgive them, that he is such a forgiving God. Others can't forgive each other. They can't forgive themselves. But if we just learn God's grace, we can do all of these. But what is that within our human nature that makes us more sinful than righteous? Sin comes along more of a default setting. Righteousness becomes by efforts.
And just to trust in the grace, because we have very few examples of it. People get mad at me if I use a movie illustration, because I run out of human real world stories, because it's hard to find great stories. We're a performance world. You measure, you got to put up the goods.
Yeah.
No one's giving you grace. You have to pass the test. No one's giving you grace into medical school. I don't want medical students here, doctors doing surgery on me by grace. I want them to be the best.
Right.
Be on top of this. Don't tell me about 95% accuracy, We have to be the best. Yeah. And that's our world, is performance-based. And to now let all of that go and just trust in grace, no matter what. Hard to do.
It is hard to do.
So we have to keep having 4-night series about it. Grace. Oh, yeah, it's by grace. Yeah.
It is grace. And what's even more mind-boggling, that the mighty God who is perfect, he's willing to put up with so much of our imperfections and tolerate and forgive and go along with us. He doesn't come in and shames us. He doesn't come down and prove us necessarily, wrong and drill, our nose in the ground. But he shows grace and love.
He's pretty kind about that.
Yeah. Well, let's take a short break.
More music.
Absolutely. I figured that will light you up. We have
ready.
Maya back to bless us with her talent. Maya, what song is this?
It's called Give Him Your Heart.
All right, let's hear it.
Choose you this day to give God your heart. He's calling you now to make a fresh start, inviting you in. Accept now his life. Just give him your heart. Give him your heart. Give him your heart. Choose you this day to give God your heart. He's calling you now to make a fresh start, inviting you in. Accept now his life. Just give him your heart. Give him your heart. Give him your heart. Just give him your heart. Give him your heart. Give him your heart. Just give him your heart. Give him your heart. Give him your heart.
Wow, amen.
Nice.
You hear those lyrics? They're just
Thank
amazing.
you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you. Folks, you got to invite them to your church. They're just wonderful, wonderful, young, talented people, Maya and Joshua. Well, Pastor, we're going to take another break. Let's hear what Bob Blancato, our public relation officer, has to say.
Thanks to you, we are able to do this special 4-part series, Grace or Grit. For more than 20 years, LLBN, in partnership with you, has been broadcasting inspirational programs like this to the world, reaching 146 nations and more than 50 million households. Today, we have 3 items of good news to share with you. First, through hard work, strong stewardship, and 2 decades of experience, LLBN has achieved a per-hour broadcast rate of $150, an exceptionally low cost unmatched by any commercial or Christian TV broadcaster. Your donation today of $150 takes worship and fellowship to millions worldwide for 1 hour. And there are some who are willing to support a partial or a full day of LLBN broadcasting, even an entire week of LLBN. Second, our new LLBN Great Commission Broadcast Center is underway in partnership with you. Let's work together to prepare more souls for Christ's kingdom. Your donation of $150 empowers LLBN to take God's inspiring message of forgiveness and hope further by producing more programs like Grace or Grit, using all the attributes and benefits of television. Third, and the best news of all, Jesus is coming again, soon. Together, let's encourage viewers to invite Christ into their lives, perhaps leading to baptism, and fulfill his great commission to his disciples, as described in Matthew 28. Please prayerfully consider supporting LLBN at the $150 level, a very smart investment that's absolutely precious in ministering to those who have accepted Christ and millions more who haven't. Thank you for your prayers and financial support that keeps LLBN providing programs like Grace or Grit.
And thank you, Bob. You know what Bob is saying is just such a reminder of the awesome empowerment that God has given us to share the gospel around the world.
I've watched him 3 times now, 3 nights. I'm going to have to go bring my $150 tomorrow.
That's good. That would work for us, Pastor.
And he'll help your ministry and make this go, make my own program go. Thank you, Bob, for continuing to talk about it. $150 makes everything go for 1 hour?
1 hour around the world in 146
Everything
countries.
that you're doing, all the channels, everything, $150.
Imagine when you go to the Philippines, how much it costs to fly. But those are unique missions and have to be done. But I'm just using the analogy here. To get on the plane will cost several $100s.
Yeah.
Lodging costs, expense, travel expense, and the fatigue and the wear and tear on the soul and the body to do a trip like this to reach to so many. But through the power of broadcast, we're instantly in 146 countries. You and I speaking right now, and within seconds from our discussion, it is reached in the farthest point.
But I think that you can do that part of it. We think that I have to give thousands. I have to buy a $25,000 transmitter right now. No, I do $150.
$1.5 million.
I have to find pews for a church in the Philippines right now. And I'm dedicating it next month. We got to get the pews. And I don't know where to find someone with $2,000. But I was thinking this morning, maybe I could find 15 people who would do 1 pew each.
Right.
And you got a pew. And you got a group of people sitting in a church in the Philippines because you put $50 in for a pew. I said, I'm going to find 10 people who will do 1 pew. We'll see.
There's your giant that you have to face.
Yeah, knock another giant down.
Yeah.
Anyway, may a lot of people do the $150. That's a great, or whatever they can do.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They can do a partial hour. They can do many hours. They can do a week. And we have people give of all gift sizes from, believe it or not, we get as low as $1 sometime because that's what someone can afford. And, we get $5, we get tens, and we get 10,000s and 20,000s. So God
Pretty
is
cool.
good. What amazes me about God's will, you talk about giants, there's no giants out there. God is the only giant. When he has, for 20 plus years, people paying the bills of LLBN who've never met us, but the Holy Spirit reaching out to them and touching their hearts to bless this ministry as we continue sharing the gospel around the world.
Someday we're going to have a reunion.
20 plus years.
You'll see all the people that have ever given.
It's in heaven. I can see Jesus would come to many of us and gather us, all those who did LLBN. We say, I want to show you.
My brother gave stem cell to a Korean kid, saved a Korean kid's life.
Really?
Then they had a reunion, and they brought him to some hotel somewhere and got together, and here's this kid that would have died, except my brother had a syringe, pulled his stem cell out 100 times, and the kid's alive. So someday we'll have that in heaven. What did LLBN do for God?
We look to that. Well, and all those who serve God on many fronts, missionaries, ministers like yourself, church leaders, all those who played their parts. And sometimes the neighbor next door who was the cause and the reason behind their next door neighbor to enter God's kingdom. It's just a beautiful network where the Holy Spirit just brings so many working together simultaneously. Yet we don't know what each one of us, what the other one is doing. But somehow God using us all for one common goal, to soften someone's heart and bring them to his kingdom. I think the kingdom is going to be fuller with people than we think. Because there's a lot of believers out there doing their absolute best.
The Bible says, a great multitude that no one could count.
That's a great promise. That's a good promise.
We take this one verse that says, a narrow road, and few there be that find it. Right. But there's another verse that says, you can't count them. So let's just keep this balance here between these two.
That's right. That's right. In 30 seconds, what's last few words you'd like to share with our viewers?
I hope people will try this. This, whatever metaphor works for you. But the idea of sliding across and giving the steering wheel to Jesus, bringing God into the picture with the giants and saying, okay, the giants aren't so big after all because I have a bigger God. Right. So whatever metaphor works, and say, God, I want to let go. Basketball, I'm going to pass the ball to God and let him make the shot. Whatever metaphor helps you release it. The old bumper sticker, let go and let God. It's pretty true.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, folks, here at LLBN, we let go many, many times because we couldn't do it and we wouldn't know how to finish it. But God somehow just carried it and kept moving it forward for us. And here we are, 20 plus years. His miracles continue, not only in ministries, but in our personal lives. Put your trust in him. Fear nothing. If you trust in him, all power then from heaven will be shielding you and protecting you and guide you to the right path. May God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow with another episode.